Hello again, everybody. This is James Bartley, and you're watching and listening to the Cosmic Switchboard Show. My very special guest today is Jo Bach. Joy has always been fascinated by the exploration of consciousness. She has kept dream diaries from school and throughout adulthood. She had also explored out-of-body experiences and astral travel and delved into paranormal UFO and ET phenomena. She works as a psychologist and clinical hypnotherapist in Bunbury, a city in Western Australia. In her professional career, she encountered many individuals who had shared with her extraordinary stories from healing from chronic illnesses in natural ways to paranormal experiences. In her personal life, she had seen UFOs and had many paranormal experiences. Due to this, her fascination and curiosity for the extraordinary grew. She is currently the Vice President of the Australian Institute of Parapsychological Research. She also runs events with paranormal, ET, and human development themes. Her latest event is called Breaking the Matrix, an all-day conference in Sydney, Crow's Nest, on February the 15th, Saturday. It features 4 speakers focusing on fascinating subjects such as humanity's ancient galactic history, Havana Syndrome, reptilian overlordship, MyLabs, sex and spiritual issues, narcissism, how to break free. So without any further ado, Jo Bach, welcome to the Cosmic Switchboard Show.
Hi, James. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Likewise, and I might add very quickly that I'm going to be one of the speakers at the conference along with my friend and colleague Kate Moss, and we're really looking forward to that. Well, Joy, tell us about your voyage of discovery. It sounds like you've had an awareness of these issues from an early age, and it sounds like you've had a lot of experiences going way back. So give our listeners and viewers an idea of your voyage of discovery, as it were.
Yes. Well, ever since I was a child, I've always been really fascinated by the sky, and I think people can relate to that. I always had a strong feeling that I wanted to go home, and this wasn't my home. And I think a lot of people can relate to that too. So I did a lot of sky watching as a child, but I also kept a dream diary. I've always been really fascinated by dreams because, I mean, who is the creator of our dreams? Like, who designs the storyline, etc.? And I know that there's different types of dreams. So there's dreams where we process our day and maybe our fears and desires are shown in our dreams. But there's also interesting dreams where it feels more real than this life. And I've had a few of those repeatedly throughout my life, where I visit the same place, and over many years there's divine dreams where I feel that there's some sort of message from a divine source, and I can, maybe I can talk a bit more about that. And there's there's nightmares, there's psychic attacks. I mean, I've had a few where I've been I couldn't move my body and feeling entities, an entity in the room, and prophetic dreams. Yeah, so dreams have really fascinated me, and I guess that was like the gateway for me to explore who are we really, like what are dreams, and is that a part of our consciousness? Is what we're living in right now just a very, very small part, and the rest is coming out in our dreams? Yeah, so
you mentioned a moment ago.
Yeah.
Just to interject for a second to hold that thought. You mentioned a moment ago that in some of your dreams, it seemed, well, in my words, and not necessarily what you said, but how I interpret it, more real than real, almost like you were living another life in some of these dreams. It kind of reminds me of some of the alternate reality stories I've heard from other people. I recently had a panel about that very subject. Could you tell us a bit more about what life was like perceived through these experiences when it seemed like you were having another dream life?
Sure, there were certain places that I seem to go to again and again, and it's the same place. So one of them is a huge ocean, but the water is quite dark, and in the ocean are huge deep sea creatures, like kind of from the dinosaur age, and there's whales there as well. And I find myself plunging into the water and feeling quite scared, but I plunge into the water anyway, and I'm swimming with these deep sea creatures. And sometimes I would just be sitting on the edge watching them. So that was one that just reoccurred throughout my whole life, and I know it's the same place. Another one is a marketplace, and I go there and I like just shopping, like it's a marketplace, much like our, I don't know if you know Fremantle markets, that's in WA, but sort of like a marketplace. There's another building that I seem to go to quite a lot. It's very multi-story, and the front of it is just, it's just like a smoky dark glass panels, like the whole front of it. There is a library that is near the top, and also a medical center near the top. I tend to go to the library quite a lot, and I feel like I'm kind of like a child in the library. And also the medical center, a few times I've gone there and I'm sitting in a chair and they're injecting something into me or putting something into my face. And also there's a room there which I work out of, which is very Spartan, just a chair, 2 chairs and a table. And I seem to be doing what I'm doing now, like counseling work. And there's like 2 doors, one going in, one going out. Yeah, so I find that really, really curious. I'm just thinking, yeah. I just find it really curious that we go back to those places. There's probably more, but it's just not coming to mind right now. But there is one. I don't know whether to talk about it now or later, but there was one dream which was very repetitive, and it was like I would find myself in this room, like all of a sudden, whatever I was dreaming, no, that I'm interrupted and I'm suddenly in this room, and it feels like a bit like an aged care center, but it's not. And mounted on the walls are 4 televisions of the old kind, so they're a bit thick at the back. I don't think they were
Yeah.
flat screen. They're quite old fashioned on all 4 sides. And what I remember is it was so loud that, and it was really disturbing because I couldn't turn it off. And I had this dream when I was in my late teens to early 20s, and it would just be, just this, repeated, I don't know, maybe like once every 3 months or so. And I was in the dream, I was quite a young person, like maybe in my 20s. And on the TV screen, half of them would be showing porn and the other half would be showing very violent scenes. And it was so loud. And then this man comes into the room and he says, and I had a crossbow, and this man comes in the room and says, it's time to kill dolls. And I knew that was code for killing people, like hunting, killing people. And I definitely did not want to be there. And I'm thinking in my mind, how am I going to escape? How am I going to escape? And I'm just pretending to go along with it, but plotting how to escape. So that dream was just really curious to me. And then years and years later, I found Tony Rodriguez's interviews, and I actually ended up interviewing him a couple of times. And a lot of what he said rang true to me. Like I kind of like, it's just little bits and pieces, like really, like he also talked about they were made to watch very violent movies and porn as well. Yes, and yeah, so a few things really dropped from talking to him. And also I had a dream where, and this was before I met Tony, I had a dream where I was in this place with a huge stage, and there were quite a lot of people, and there were lectures going on all day, and I was going in and out of the room. And at the end of the day, we were going I was walking home with a group of people, and I was quite content. And yeah, the sun was kind of going down, but we were going to like walk for like half an hour back to our home. And while I was walking home, there was this huge, it was almost like a cardboard cutout of an archangel with a trumpet. It was really strange. It was like it was out of nowhere, and it kind of came through the clouds and kind of touched the ground in front of me. And it said the word series came up, CERES. And for the longest time, I didn't know what it meant. Like, why series? I mean, and I think it was, that was my unconscious mind telling me something about that dream. And then when I met Tony, it made sense. Maybe that place was Ceres. Maybe I was there. I don't know. But, I'm just picking up bits and pieces to try and put the puzzle together of my life. And I'm sure there are other people too who would have these sort of strange dreams that they can't make sense of.
Well, Ceres, Ceres, is the name of a goddess. You're probably familiar, Greco-Roman era,
Yes.
and I'm sure there's other correspondences. But very interesting. I've had an experience too where this was definitely a mind control scenario too, where I was laying in what appeared to be a hospital bed, and it was a small hospital ward. It's just me in there basically, and there were two TVs like you described, like the box shaped ones. One was bigger than the other, and they were mounted on brackets on each corner of the wall. Like I said, it was a small room. And I've experienced something similar where one is shown repetitive images of violence or horrific accidents, car accidents, or conversely, like sporting events, bunch of people running along in a playing field, that kind of thing. In this instance, both of the TVs were showing like a European sporting event, what I would liken to a European Premier League soccer, right? And what was interesting was when I would force my eyes open, because I was aware I was in a virtual reality, I'd be back in my bed, right? And then the moment I forced my eyes open, I would feel a beaming in a part of my brain, which induces a very heavy sleep sensation where your eyelids feel like they weigh a ton. And then I'd close my eyes. And then the moment my eyelids were closed, whammo, I was back laying in that bed looking up at the two TVs mounted on brackets. And that's happened to me on a number of occasions where I would force myself to wake up from some kind of virtual reality mind control scenario, and their sensors must pick that up because the moment I pry my eyes open, I start getting beamed. I can feel it, and in a part of my brain, the heavy sleep sensation kicks in. Close my eyelids, whammo, I'm back in that virtual reality. So I have an idea of what you're talking about.
That's really interesting. That's so interesting. In a way, it's very confirming because I just thought this is the first time I've talked about it in public. I just thought I would throw it out there. And it's so interesting that you've had that same TV. I was just thinking, okay, people, yeah, that's really interesting.
Have you ever had
Yeah,
dreams or experiences when you're looking down at what seems to be a sporting event, or conversely, you're in a theater, a darkened theater, either by yourself, a few people, or a lot of people, and you're sitting there watching something on the theater screen? Could be action scenes, could be war scenes, could be scenes of violence.
yeah. I've had dreams where there's yeah, like cinema, like a theater, and it's really like the doors are really huge, like almost going up to the ceiling, several of them. And yeah, there'll be different movies showing in them. Yeah, I can't remember much of those, but I think I might have written them down. If I get time, you know, when I semi-retire, I would go back and read all my diaries. Yeah, because I love this. Yeah, like this is so interesting, like sharing our dreams and the similarities. So you
How's been
believe that it's MK Ultra? Like, is
some
it an astral? We're taken to the
I
astral.
think there's an
Is
astral
it?
aspect to it as well. I believe that not only can we be physically abducted, but we can be astrally abducted, astrally hijacked, essentially. For all outward appearances, we're there laying in bed, but our consciousness has been ensnared and put into a virtual environment, right? I mean, we seem to be in our astral body, but we're in this virtual construct. And sometimes we're put through our paces and training, whatever the case may be, or we're shown things, we're taken on tours and propagandized in a way.
Yeah, actually, I've had the dreams of being in a hospital bed as well, and I've had dreams where I felt like there was one dream where I was talking to some people, and then I said, "Hang on, who is Elmo or what is Elmo?" And as soon as I said that, I feel this sensation of being in a hospital bed and being wheeled around. Like physically, I could feel like I was being wheeled in a hospital
Like in the
bed.
gurney, I've had that before too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had dreams where I was in a hospital bed. One was with a friend. Yeah. But also the paralysis. Yeah, like trying to wake up, but it's something that's pushing me back into sleeping. But I'm trying my best to wake up because I don't like being in that dream.
Yes.
Um, Yeah.
Have you had dreams or memories of, well, you just mentioned hospital setting, but of seeing yourself or others in like in hospital gowns or smocks or night clothes, a number of people maybe in what seems to be a hospital setting, whether above ground or underground, and what appear to be medical staff?
Mhm. Um, I don't think I've taken notice of what I was wearing, but I remember in a dream I was in bed and I was in the hospital gown in bed. Yeah. The only dream I can remember about the doctor was in that building. Near the top of the building, there was a medical center and he was administering injections and yeah, something in my face. I can't remember whether it was through my nose or my mouth. I'm sure I wrote it down. I have to go back and read in my diaries. But the whole the killing dolls thing. I went to San Francisco. I think around 2019. I mean, as a child, I used to be quite obsessed with that song. If you're going to San Francisco, don't
Yeah.
forget to wear a flower in your hair. Yeah, so I was quite obsessed with that and thinking, what's that about? What's that about? And when I was in San Fran, I did not like the place. And I was walking along and found there was a shop that said that's called Killing Dolls, and it was like a punk clothing, but the paraphernalia, the decorations were really harsh. Like it was like a S&M, paraphernalia. There were like those big black bats with spikes on it, just hanging down. I was just really kind of really violent type. I don't know, really full on thing. Um, and also after that, I think maybe 2 or 3 years later, I had an interview with a couple, and the man, I think his name was Katz, he said that he's been researching a lot about San Fran, and he said there's a lot of MK Ultra
No, yeah.
operations going on there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Have
that's
you
the
heard?
irony of San Francisco. Yeah, because I've been to Army Letterman General Hospital, which is part of the Presidio, the infamous Army Presidio base where that Satanist
Yes.
Michael Aquino, used to operate out of. And there's a number of other military mind control centers there as well, Oak Knoll Naval Hospital and other places. So, and also you got Stanford Research Institute, et cetera, et cetera. Given it gives off the appearance of a liberal hippie place, and we're going back to the 60s, if not earlier. But really, Frank Zappa pointed this out. Really, it's a place that's always been under heavy, heavy mind control, to the point where they actually had released these bioagents in the air there in the past as well, just for experiments and what have you. So yeah, I don't really have. I have fond memories of the San Francisco Bay Area as a kid growing up and a young adult, doing fun things. But with the benefit of hindsight, looking back at what that place really represents, it's a very dark place, especially now. Now
Mm,
it's unrecognizable now.
hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of people on drugs there, like walking almost zombie like a
Yeah, you
lot.
notice that, huh?
And I've also used to have repetitive dreams of being in a witch or a coven and try again the same thought of I'm going along with this, but I'm planning to escape. I want to escape. So yeah, interesting thought about,
Can
I
you
don't know,
describe the
yeah.
setting and what the people look like? What the setting was like? Were these memories usually in daytime or at nighttime?
The only thing I can remember right now, there might be more in my diary, but what I can remember is it's usually dark, and I can't remember anyone else. I think I'm wearing dark clothing. Yeah, I can't. There's another dream I remember where I felt like there were cuts on my body, and I could feel like my real body could feel the sting of the cuts. And again, thinking, I'm going to escape, I want to escape. Yeah, but I can't remember right now what those dreams were.
Was there
I'll
anything
come
in your
back another
family
time
history?
after I've read my
Oh yeah,
diaries.
sure.
Yeah.
That'll be fine. Was
Mm.
there anything
Yeah.
in your family history that might suggest a predisposition to this, perhaps? Anything that your parents, or your
Mm.
siblings, or older relatives told you that may indicate some kind of?
Yeah, not that I know of. My grandmother used to do ancestral worship, but that was a common practice in the Chinese community. So I was born in Singapore and she was from China. Yeah, so that I remember as a child I would like look at the incense and try and grab the smoke. And even actually I remember getting a little bowl and pretending I was stirring a cauldron and doing witchy stuff, and I was quite young, like I was like 5 or so, or less than 5. But I did explore a little bit. Yeah, yeah, I was in a group, like a uh, not so much a coven, but a more of a modern type kind of group when I was in my early 20s.
Spiritualists, what like they refer to them a
Yeah,
lot of times as spiritualist type group.
they called themselves neo pagans, and I
Oh, okay.
was drawn to that. But I only stayed for 3 years, and I felt like, no, it's time to leave. But I think maybe I was drawn to that because of some past, whether it's my soul's journey or whether it's my ancestral, but I don't know. Yeah, no, yeah, I don't know because my family's from the Chinese lineage. Maybe there's
I have
something
Chinese
similar
in my
in.
background as well too, and I think that part of my bloodline going back to China plays a role in some of the stuff that I've been involved with, and some of the things that I've experienced. The ancient Chinese dragon bloodlines, which perhaps your bloodlines goes back similarly to the ancient dragon court and all that kind of stuff in ancient China. I mean, ancient China, not just the last
Mm.
couple thousand years, but like way back. You mentioned prophetic dreams earlier. Could you give us an example of some of the prophetic dreams you've had?
There weren't anything big. Used to, when I was in my early 20s, I used to dream about my boyfriend that I would have. Yeah, it was just more personal stuff. Just trying to remember. It would be just little things like my next job. I would dream about, yeah, working in a certain school, which I ended up working in that certain school, a private school, or people that I would meet later. Yeah, but it wasn't
So
anything.
these were like precognitive dreams that where you would see into the future or in the dream take part in a future event that hadn't played out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
those too.
Yeah, yeah. I used to meditate a lot in my early 20s. I would explore as many religions as possible. I just had this real thirst to find out. And what I was really seeking was, the spirituality, the essence of these religions, which, later on I did, found that I don't need that religion to explore the spiritual side of us. Again, that's for me, that's the human potential. Like we have the DNA to do all this stuff, like precognition, telepathy, even levitation. uh, and I think that it's deliberately being squashed. But if we were taught these things as children, and children are probably very much more better at it than us as adults, when we start to shut down these abilities. Yeah. So again, I think many of us don't reach our potential in this life, or maybe in the whole soul track lives, obviously for certain reasons. Yeah, but I just feel. I don't know, I just feel like in our ancient past, like maybe going back to those ancient dragon days, we were living like the gods and goddesses that we've heard about. I don't know whether you feel that, like,
Yeah, I
the
believe that as well.
right.
I think there's
Yeah.
something to that. If you get a chance, if you come across Tracy Harding's books, she's a Australian novelist, and she lives in an island down in the Hawkesbury River, south of here. And she's written these different trilogies or different series of books, and they're fascinating. They have reptilians, time travel, black goo. I mean, and also past parallel lives as well. And in one of her sagas, this soul group she keeps reincarnating with. In fact, one of these soul groups that she reincarnates with, she shared like an alternate reality existence with too. That's a whole nother series of novels. But on her more earthbound novel series, one of the eras was like ancient China, where people had these abilities, where people were able to shapeshift into tigers and shapeshift into animals. They were able to go on boats that would be just guided by the power of their mind, didn't even need motors or anything, right? So, and I have a feeling that Tracy Harding is writing from memories and writing from experience, because a lot of the stuff that she writes about just touches me at a very deep soul level. I mean, the gal really knows what she's talking about as far as these subjects are concerned. Now, in the time we got left in the first segment, you mentioned ETs, UFOs. Indeed, this conference that's coming up, a big part of the themes that will be delved into relate to UFOs, aliens, ET encounters. But what are some of your memories and experiences in that regard?
I've seen 2 UFOs. So when I was 25, I saw one with someone else, my then a guy I was going out with back then. We were on a farm in WA, and it was quite a large sphere going across the sky really fast, and it was dimming, glowing, and then it would zigzag, disappear, reappear, going really fast, zigzag, and then disappear. And then 10 years later, I saw the same craft on top of a mountain in New Zealand. At the time, I think it was just me who saw it, and it was the same craft, but it was just going really fast across the sky. And then many years later, I saw an ad on Gaia TV. It was that guy, Matthias Di Stefano. He was advertising his series, and he had a graphic representation of a craft. And I thought, that's it. That's what I saw. It was like a round sphere. And he said Pleiadian craft. And I've had quite a lot of Pleiadian themes in my life. When I was a teenager, I bought a cassette tape which said music from the Pleiades. I read books about Pleiades. I had a soul reading from a guy that I think, Simon Parks, I think, yeah, there was a bit of question mark around him, but I did get a soul reading from him, and he just said Pleiades. So I'm just taking that. I mean, when I was a kid in Singapore, I used to draw women with long blonde hair. And, I'm Asian, right? But I'm
Yeah.
drawing these women with blonde hair, and I was a child. I was under 5 years old, with sparkles around them, like, that kind of stars around them. Yeah, so memories, I don't know, it's just like a feeling, like I can't prove it. That's the thing. But it's like I've had memory of these things that you put on your feet. And this was before that movie Jupiter came out, because people were saying, oh, I remember Jupiter Rising. It's like, oh,
Something
wow,
like that. Jupiter Rising. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But before that, I had really vivid memories of putting that on and then being able to step up into the sky and just glide. Yeah.
Oh, you mean like
Just,
I'm trying to remember the movie where they put on some kind of footwear, but enabled them to fly and levitate.
yeah. So when I saw that movie, I thought, oh wow, it kind of confirmed, for myself, that maybe what I was, what though, I don't know whether they were memories, or it felt like a memory. Yeah.
So you must have had a lot of dreams besides that of flying and what have you over the years, like flying dreams and besides the
Yes.
out of body stuff.
Yes, lots and lots of flying dreams, going through wars, going through the roof. And curiously, sometimes I would be doing this as if I'm swimming to gain height. And, and I've heard from other people too, when they have flying dreams, they do the swimming motion. So that's so interesting. I think, I don't know, are we in the astral? If we are, maybe it's a bit like water.
Yeah, because like the ether is a medium, right? There's a word for it that in ancient Hindu in the Vedic text, which is mistakenly referred to as space, which implies like a void of nothingness. But in the ancient Vedic text, they didn't think of it in those terms. They thought of it more as like a medium of the ether, what we would call the ether. So it makes, and I've done the same thing. I've tried to swim in my out of body astral experiences. So it's like there's an innate understanding within some of us that we're traveling through something. It's not a void, it's not nothingness. There's a medium through which we're traveling. And that's what the physics used to be like in the old days, before it was all taken over by this highfalutin mathematics and what have you. There was an understanding that that the ether was this medium through which everything had to move through.
Interesting. I've had dreams about these tall greys, or they're kind of
Tall
more
grays.
yellowish. Yeah, but they're more yellowish color, very much like the communion. And I did read communion when I was 15. And they were sitting in a room, and it was quite wet, like almost like a wet. Uh, yeah, I don't know, just a wet room. Yeah, so that's
You mean like
interesting.
the floors and the walls were moist, or there was actual like liquid or water present?
The walls was quite moist, and it was a bit like a not a sauna, was the steam room, but not steam, not so much
Yeah,
steam, but it felt a bit like that, like
yeah.
it was moist, and they were just sitting there. Um,
Like it was a humid
there was a
atmosphere,
it was a what? Sorry.
like a humid type atmosphere.
Yeah, from memory, where it was like a room, and it was just moist. In another dream, um, there was a big pool, and there was an alligator on one side of the pool, and he was staring, not a crocodile, staring at me, like I could feel him staring at me, like quite, it wasn't nice, like he was, and I was and I had a like a bowl of water, and there was these mini dolphins jumping around.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think maybe it's symbolic of maybe Sirius. And I've had that crocodile look at me a few times, like in other dreams, that staring at me, and like I'm watching you.
I've
I don't
had
know. Have
similar
you?
dreams where
Yeah.
I was like on this small platform that was like enclosed by glass. And beneath it was the ocean, right? And the water was teeming with these extremely large crocodiles, right? And I was with someone else. I can't really remember who it was, but I'm looking down at all these huge crocodiles, and I'm thinking, I'm glad I'm on this platform. And no sooner had I got that thought out of my head than I'm deep underwater, surrounded by all these crocodiles, and some of them were starting to go after me. So I had to swim to the top, right, and not even worry about embolisms or anything like that. Just like get up to the surface, right. And so I had to swim as fast as I could, get to the surface, and get back onto that like platform, like a little island, but it was artificial construct, right? Like
Mhm.
a white slab, basically, or a big hard plastic slab. But that was all you could stand on up there, and so I had to fight my way to get up to the surface and then get out of the water and get away from all these crocodiles, some of whom were snapping at me. So yeah, I could relate to that.
Yeah. Do you think they were crocodiles, or were they reptilian kind of
Well, the
imagery?
metaphor, of course, it would be like reptilian, as far as like
Mhm.
if one were to think of it like in metaphorical terms. At the time, they seemed to me to be big, aggressive crocodiles, right? And so I didn't have the luxury to tell myself at the time because the immediacy of it all. You're experiencing this. You don't know if it's a dream. You're not going to take any chances, right? Oh, this is just a dream. They're not going to hurt me. Well, that's an assumption. You know what I mean? The way my mind was working, I got to get away from these things, right? Next thing you know, I'm in the
Yeah.
water with them. So,
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever had dreams about a black abyss? I used to have repetitive dreams about this
yeah,
really
tell me
black
about
hole.
those.
Yeah, it's just like this really deep black hole, and I'm climbing over the edge of it and looking down, and I'm yelling like, "Hello," trying to find out, is there anyone down there? And I
Was it
used to
like
have
a
that.
large, like a
Really.
chasm or cavern, or was it a little small hole?
It was about maybe a couple of meters wide, and I would always peer down this long black deep hole, and I'm yelling like, "Hello," trying to find out if there's anything down there.
Well, I had a dream one time where I was in this big empty house, and I was kind of forced to explore it because, like yourself and what many other people have described, I was trying to find a way out of this place, right? And then as I'm exploring this place, I came into a room. I went into a room, and there was a circular black hole on the ground. I mean, think of like a perfect hole, like a manhole cover, right?
Mhm.
Except it wasn't like a hole cut into the floor. it was just a black circular hole. And I
Yeah.
knew that if I went down there, I'd be lucky to get out of it, right? And there was
Okay.
something that was beckoning me to go down there. But my higher
Hmm.
self or whatever, my oversoul said no, not a chance, right? Because I felt it was a trap of some kind. Now, when I was younger and more impetuous and dumber, right, I may have gone into it to see what would happen. But in that state of mind, having had all these recent experiences and what have you, and being lucid in this dream, so called, I knew that going down that hole would have been the worst thing I could have done. And I got the impression it was like a bottomless pit, like an abyss that just ensnared and trapped people forever.
Wow. Was it large? Was the hole large, or
No,
how
no, it was
big was it?
like think of like a manhole cover. Think of just like a
Mm.
just a circle, like a perfect circle of blackness on the floor. But it
Yeah.
wasn't a hole that someone cut out. It was just like
Yeah.
a portal, like a void.
That's very much like the hole that I've dreamt about. Yeah, like an abyss. Like it wasn't cut out. It was just this black hole. Yeah.
Well, you're the type of person that's had these out of body experiences, lucid dreams, and I've thought for some time, and others have thought the same thing. For some of us, when we dream, we can go dimension hopping, for lack of a better term, where our consciousness goes to places, not necessarily in this realm, this plane of existence, this dimension even, but it's almost unlimited to the types of places. I'm sure there are limitations. We all experience limitations in astral travel at some point or another, but there are times when we can just go dimension hopping and almost willfully literally bounce out of one setting, one realm, and go to another, go to another, go to another. And I've had many out of body experiences where I knew I was going somewhere. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I would leave my body, be going through like space and seeing stars going by me, and then I'd have the sensation of going forward at super high speed, hard left turn, left turn, left turn, right turn, left turn, slow down, descend. And sometimes I just like slowly drop out of the sky, or I just wind up somewhere, right? And
Mhm.
when I wind up somewhere, I know that I'm in another realm, another dimension, and I just have to try to go about my activities unobserved and try not to draw attention to myself because I'm constantly thinking, okay, what if somebody can see me, et cetera, et cetera. Have you ever had anything like that?
Yes. Yes, I don't recall so much going through the universe, like through the stars, but I would find myself in gardens and like observing going above these trees, and the colors of the leaves are not colors that are recognizable here, but also, yeah, trying to rise above so people don't see me. Yeah.
Well,
I
yeah, that's a fear
trying to think.
of being observed, right? Because if
Yeah.
I'm out in the astral, if I'm in the astral, I cannot be the only thing out in the astral. There has to be something else out there. That's the way my mind works.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've had dreams being chased as well, and then I would try and fly, and they couldn't fly, but I could to get away from them. I'm just trying to think. There was slipped my mind. Yeah, it will come back to me.
Well, about the tall
Yeah,
gray being that had kind of a
yeah.
yellowish tint to it, if you will, and then you recall being in a room and there was moisture. What happened in that dream? Were you in there by yourself and then suddenly you saw these tall grays, or what happened?
I have no memory of what happened before and after. I only remember just suddenly seeing them there, and they were just sitting there. Yeah, I wish I could remember more. I think trying to think. Yeah, no.
Have you ever had a missing
Um,
time experience or nosebleeds or unexplained marks and bruises on your body when you wake up?
Sometimes, but I always brush it off. Like I think, no, that's I must have bumped into something. Um,
Where would
Missing
some of these
time.
marks be? Like, what part of your anatomy would you find these?
My thighs and my arms. But they're not like the three triangle or anything like that.
Would
Yeah,
there be like
I just think,
like
how did I
pressure
get
marks?
that? I don't. Sorry.
Would they be like pressure marks, or would you feel discomfort? It would be some discoloration, right? And then,
Yeah, it would be like I bumped into something, and yeah, and there's a bruise, but I don't remember having that. before, but I just brushed it off, thinking I must have done it and not noticed it.
Yeah, and
Mm.
so you'd wake up with these, and would there be sometimes discomfort associated with the mark or marks, or sometimes no
Uh,
discomfort at all?
I don't recall anything. Yeah, I don't recall anything where I thought, oh, this is hugely discomfort. Yeah, I can't remember because I just brushed off a lot of these things as
I
just
think a lot of us
accidents.
are. A
Yeah.
lot of us can be, lack of a better term, like programmed or given some kind of post hypnotic suggestion to brush these things off, even though some of these marks can be quite remarkable in their own right. And
Mhm.
especially if it's tied in with like a remnant of an unusual dream from the night
Mhm.
before, right? Suddenly we wake up in the morning with unexplained bruises or marks. It's interesting that you should have some of those, and you would have that response to it where you would almost reflexively, uh, be dismissive of them.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I hadn't been, I would have probably written it down. But I never. I think I just dismissed it. One dream is coming to mind is I've had these repeated dreams of. It's hard to explain. It's like a huge electronic arm, but that was my home. Like I sleep in that arm, and it kind of goes like this out, and everything like my microwave, everything is kind of being hooked onto the side of this huge electronic arm. Like that's what was where I was sleeping. Like that was my home, and I think I was very poor. Like I don't know, and sometimes I don't know whether I was a prostitute or whatever. I remember one dream where there was this creature coming, and I was thinking that creature has no appendage. Why would they want to have sex? And then that creature just is almost like like an etheric creature, and it projected one. It projected an appendage. Um,
What
but I
you
don't
thought
remember like having
you were
sex with
wondering,
it or
you were
yeah.
wondering why it would be interested in you when it didn't seem to have a member, but when you thought that, suddenly it manifested a member.
Yeah, like it was that thing manifested a member, like it was.
Was it trying to
I don't
manipulate
know.
you in some way? Like, well, aside from the curiosity and whatever surprise you may have felt about seeing the thing, did you feel like it was trying to alter your consciousness or make you more sleepy or make you more aroused? Do you think it was trying to manipulate you in some way?
I from memory, I think it was more like it was. Oh, this is fun. This is play. Haha, and I mean, it was like a white creature, and the member had when he manifested the member, it was also just a white, like there were no details. It was just a white thing. I don't know. It was like he was thinking it was fun and being playful, but I don't remember what happened after that. Uh, yeah, and yeah, I don't know. I'm just thought
No,
that
that's
dream
interesting because I've heard
weird.
similar stories from
Okay.
women where they're talking about some being that wants to have sex with them, but by all outward appearances, it like asexual. It doesn't have any organs, right? And
Hmm.
suddenly, and this would happen sometimes with what appear to be grays or being similar in appearance to grays, where somehow, some way, some of them are able to manifest the member for sexual purposes. They manipulate the woman in our example, create an illusion in
Hmm.
her mind that she's having an intimate moment with someone else from her past or someone she may have a crush on in her current life. But really, it's this gray that assumed this guise or exerted that kind of mind control on the gal and then manifested a member somehow, right? And of course, the
Hmm.
reptilians are notorious for that kind of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
we've
That
reached the
was
end of the first segment. Uh,
okay.
we got a lot more to talk about in the second segment. Could you let our viewers and listeners know, Joy, how they can find your work and also to learn more about the upcoming conference? Oh, and tell us in the time we got left in the first segment about this conference coming up, about your other guests besides
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we've got a conference next week, next Saturday, the 15th of February. So one day after Valentine's, good way to remember. It's an in-person conference. There's going to be 4 speakers. It's called Breaking the Matrix. And it's all about trying to decipher or trying to figure out what's going on, and coming together and, exploring together on how to exit the Matrix. So there's 4 speakers. Myself, I'm going to be talking about the ancient Lyran and Atlantis wars, like the ancient humans and reptilians. James you're going to be talking about my labs and the reptilian overlords, which I think is really important, especially these today and in current times. And we've got Roger, who's going to talk about the Havana syndrome. He's done a lot of research on that and has some surprising conclusions. And we've got Kate Moss. She's a gifted and very experienced psychic medium, and she's going to talk about relationships, especially with narcissists, and the spiritual contamination that we can have when we have, sexual relationships with people, and, how do we heal from that as well. It's going to be a really interesting conference. So yeah, do come if you can. It's
If you're anywhere in the greater Sydney area, north or south of Sydney or west of Sydney, yeah, please make an effort to go there. And
it's
we'll have the
Nest. Yeah,
information on my website and also on Joy's website. And
yeah. So
I really
salubrious
encourage people to get out there.
events. Yes, yeah. So salubriousevents.net. It's a bit of a word, but so salubriousevents.net. Oh yeah, so do come. We would love to meet you, and it's
Likewise,
going to
and
be
I really
amazing.
want to delve into the Lyran-Orion Wars in the second segment. That's really something I want to talk about. And to our dear listeners and viewers out there, if you like what we do, if you believe in what we do, please go to thecosmicswitchboard.com, sign up, become a member, and we'll see you at the top of the next segment.